G'day everyone, my name is Zach and welcome back to Printed. This week we're going to be tackling a different style of video. I have enlisted the help of the amazing and wonderful Z, my partner.
Hi.
Today we are going to be doing a cool little video idea that I've had.
Cool little video idea that you had?
No. So Z and I have been talking and we thought it'd be really cool to do a kind of paint scheme choosing video where I have 3 separate models and 3 separate color schemes, and Z gets to choose sort of what goes where.
I will preface that I have no idea. Like, obviously I'm still learning Warhammer because it is an interest of mine. But we will preface that I've got no clue what goes with what model is what. I've challenged Zach to essentially trick me into basically mishmashing these models. So I'm very excited to see how this goes because I will most likely choose the wrong things for the wrong models. But that's the whole point.
So we're going to be going through a little slideshow that I've prepared, as you can see above us. We've got a little format here for y'all. And basically, I have 3 separate color schemes for stereotypically what each of these models would be painted as.
You also have to convince me which model you want to paint the most. Basically, like, you'll show me the models, tell me the most about them, and do your best trying to convince me which one I should go with.
Alright, so without further ado, we're going to jump straight into this. This will be a video, most likely, depending on how this first one goes. I definitely will consider doing a couple more. So if you guys want to...
There'll be 3 parts. Watch them. It'll be cool and funny.
If you guys are keen to see more of this, make sure you let me know down in the comments below. And let's jump into it. First and foremost, we have the one and only Galapox Infected. So this bad boy right here is Nurgle's finest. He is a big, bloated, fat Hulk mismatch of bits. And ready to spread the plague.
I love the oh, what is going on with your stream? I love the first thing I noticed about this model is man titties. I'm not too sure why.
He's got mad Mickey Mouse earmuffs.
I also love the addition. I know that everyone at watching this video could probably see the PowerPoint that I'm looking at, but I love the addition of add a footer. I love that. Add a footer into this.
That is my favorite part of the Galapox Infected is the add a footer. As you can see, plenty of detail on this bad boy. Kind of sickly. He's got like maggots hanging out of him. He's got that really cool like tentacle thing on him. I think overall pretty neat model.
His leg, he's obviously skipped leg day. That's pretty clear. His calves aren't doing very well.
Yeah. He's on a permanent bulk. He has never had a cut in his life. only ever bulking. That's how you can get pecs like that. Man is an absolute monster.
I think he also needs to see a doctor. I don't think someone should have tentacles coming out of their orifices.
Yeah, so that is our first option. Just a cheeky little nurgly boy. We do also have the Frog Mage, or a Slime Mage Priest, as some might know it. This guy, obviously, very wise, very sentient dinosaur, has been around for thousands, if not millions of years, knows a couple things or two. Pretty cool dude. Obviously, you know, being so old, his skin is sagging a little. He needs a little bit of Revlon just to tighten that up.
He kind of looks like a monkey. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't think that was a frog.
I thought
that it was like some sort of like ape or something. Like, I can see in, like, his hands, because his hands are, like, webbed, but his face does not translate to frog.
Yeah.
Frogs don't have noses.
Now that you mention that, it does look kind of, like, monkey-like.
Frogs,
I don't think I can unsee that.
I have to be honest, frogs do have noses, but it's, like, all connected into, like, one little, like, snout, like, little boopy. Like, it's just, I don't know, something about it. I'll be honest, too. With this model, I'm very, like, I've seen some of the other, like, Games Workshop models and stuff like that before. Oh, no, it's not a Games Workshop model, it's a different model.
Yeah, so this is from One Page Rules, so this is an alternative.
Okay. I will say, with this model, I was expecting a little bit more accessories going on. Like, he kind of looks like he's just wrapped up in a cozy blanket and is just like, I've been expecting you.
Yeah,
and it's just
he's like
Wait, what are you trying to sedate me? You sedate. Probably seduce me or something. Like, I don't know. The detail on this, I think, is getting me. Like, it's good. I like it, but could use a little bit more pizzazz, more flair.
Alright. Also, if you do notice, I'm pretty sure the second skull from the top there in the middle of his head, that is a cat skull. So do with that information.
Yeah. It's a bit hard to tell, but sure.
Yeah. Alright, now, our last model on the chopping block today, we have the one and only Terminator, Space Marine Terminator Librarian, which is a recent addition.
How many fucking names? He's a Space Marine, a Terminator, but also a librarian, because he's sensitive on the inside.
Yeah, he is.
He reads books. He is literate. He is cultured.
There's a man of class.
What the fuck? Why is librarian in there? Like,
because he's got books on him. You just can't see it. It's on the other side of his hip there.
Yeah, but okay. But like, is he supposed to be in battle, or is he supposed to be in a library?
I do realize that this guy kind of looks like a 12-year-old that found out about like Norse mythology and just started carving runes into himself as well. He's like, the more runes. Yeah.
That's true. He looks like he's been possessed by some sort of being and was just like, I'm gonna carve my armor and no one can stop me. So but again, like, I'm confused by the librarian aspect of this, but anyway.
So he's like a smart guy. He's like a psychic power guy.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah, he like uses his brain to blow stuff up. It's pretty sick. Alright, so those are our 3 model options. Now, on to the color schemes. I have basically simplified each of these guys into a 3-tone color palette. So I won't say too much about it, but these are our choices.
That's actually kind of fucking hard.
Okay, so
I was not expecting the models that you gave me to have those simplified color palettes.
Interesting. So these are mixed up, so they're in no particular order, but these are the 3 color palettes.
We will preface too, this is traditionally how you would paint them. If you do like these models, paint them however you want. Colors are fun. Exactly. Don't be afraid. Like, I love seeing models that people kind of stray off of the norm, so please keep doing that. But I did not expect for these to be the official colors that people usually associate the models with. I was like, I have some sort of idea on like what class or what race or whatever you call it, color scheme goes with what, but this is difficult. So
these are 3 color schemes. So obviously we've got like, for the first one, it's like kind of a tanny sort of color, and now it's bright yellow and then a bright orange. For our other one, so our middle palette here is more like a kind of flesh skin tone. You've got a nice turquoise blue and then like sort of a purplish color. For our final color scheme, we have a nice dark blue, a light ice blue, and then kind of a browny sort of color. So very, very unique and interesting color palettes. So
the one thing that's going to get me is the fact that there's one color palette that I really like, and that's obviously the yellow and the orange.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm scared because if I choose that one first, then that leaves the other 2, and I don't really like them as much.
Okay, fair.
So I feel like I'm gonna have to get like really creative with it, because I'm like, obviously, if you guys don't know, I am an artist, so trying to imagine these color palettes on the models that you've given me to try and match up which one looks the one that makes the most sense. Yeah. But also I'm going in my mind of being like, which one do I really want to see? Like, disregarding which one to match.
In your opinion, okay, so we've got the color palettes, we've got the models. In your opinion, do you want to choose the model first and then the color scheme, or do you want to choose the color scheme and then we'll quickly backtrack to the models?
To be honest, I've already made up my mind with both the model and the color scheme.
Oh, okay. What are we thinking?
So what I'm thinking is that I love both 1 and 2, obviously. I would say...
Yep.
Sorry, not 1 and 2, 1 and 3.
Oh, 1 and 3. Okay, yep.
1 and 3. 2, like I said, 2 just... it's not my favorite. It doesn't hold a lot of visual weight. So that bad boy, I'm sorry. You might be last.
No, he's been
you don't-
eliminated.
He's gonna have to be last, unfortunately. Like I
Yeah.
said, he doesn't hold a lot of visual weight, and I'm kind of having a hard time trying to see like the vision of the color palette versus this guy in his model. So he'll get his turn. He'll get his turn, but he has to wait. I think he has to wait.
Okay.
It's between 1 and 3.
So we've got 1, and then we have 3.
I'll be honest with you. I'm going to go 3 for the model.
Okay. So
Only
number 3.
because I feel like he's a very strong first contender. Like visually, there's a lot of detail. There's a lot of things you could do with it. And I think as well as that, with the color palette I'm going to choose for him, it's going to limit you hard.
Okay. All right. So
yeah,
for the color palette, what are we thinking? What are you thinking of going with?
I'm thinking of going with Model 3 with color palette 1.
Ooh. Okay. Interesting.
So you're gonna have a fun time with trying to paint that, because like in my head, this is how I would see it. Like if we go back to the third model, just to give people an idea of my thinking, very simplified, is that when I see his runes and stuff, that reminds me of like glowing effects, magic effects. Since he is a librarian, he's obviously very well versed in like some sort of, I don't know, forbidden power or something, or just knows something that we don't.
Yeah.
And that's the vibes he gives off. So like that's why I really like the color palette, because you've got that tan in there, but I think it'd be interesting to see a tan armor. I don't usually see that.
Okay, so you're saying go tan with the armor.
Tan with the armor, but like lighting accents or like even just the normal accents, I would like to see really bright and vibrant.
All right.
Just because, I don't know, I think it would look really cool. Like, he'd really stand out. He'd let you know, like, I'm fucking important.
Yeah. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is our color scheme and our model for this week's video. So stay tuned. We're going to jump into painting that, and I'm going to walk you through sort of my process and everything on how I kind of figured out what I wanted to use each of the
You sound like you're
paints
struggling
for.
already.
I'm going to be thinking about this. I might do a couple of mock-ups, but yeah, once I have the paint scheme all down pat, I'll bring you guys back, and can't wait for it. Now, I wanted to draw inspiration from El Miniaturista, one of my favorite painters. He actually painted up this Dark Angel at some point. I kind of wanted to try my hand at copying the scheme, because it's not very often that I really try to push my painting skills. So I first started by just doing a little bit of a mock-up in Photoshop, and I wasn't too happy with how the silver looked. These aren't going to be the final thing or anything, it's just to get a general gist of what the armor will look like. The silver looked a little bit too washed out with the pale armor, so I figured that we'd go with the gold. And with all the planning done and dusted, it was time to jump in and start painting this model. As per usual, we're going to be starting off with my SMS Black Surfacer paint. Now, I just love this paint. I just used a little bit of Tamiya lacquer thinner just to prime the airbrush and thin it down so that it flows nicely. And just give that a nice big coat over everything. It's super easy to do with the airbrush, and I always find that there's never any cracking or anything, and it's just way more consistent than using a rattle can. Rattle cans I tend to have kind of mixed results with, so I like the consistency. Next up, using some German brown and burnt umber, I did roughly about a 50-50 mix for the armor because I wanted to start from a nice rich brown, and basically just sprayed this over everything. And the first pass that I did was really light, and then I came in later with a much heavier pass, as you can see here, and really made the model look like chocolate. Now I did switch down to a 0.2 nozzle for this one, and use some Steel Legion Drab just to initialize those base coats. More or less, this is just going to create our initial highlight sketch, and then we can come back later with some brighter paints and really liven the model up. As you can see, I'm just focusing on key areas that will kind of draw the eye, and things that are right where the top of the light will be. As you can see, this is what he looked like after we did the first pass. I more or less want to try and keep as much of that chocolate brown color in the recesses and build up a gradual gradient. We can always come back in later if we go a bit too bright and then work that brown down. Now, just using some Ushabti bone, I really wanted to push these highlights. This paint job is a little bit more different. I wanted to go for more display type painting,
hence why I'm staying away from the paintbrush for as long as I can. I want to try and create some nice smooth blends, and the airbrush is absolutely perfect for this. But if you have the patience, you can recreate all of these effects using a paintbrush. Now, using some titanium white, we're just going to come in for the final highlight and really draw your eye to some key areas. I more or less focus this on things like his head, the top of the knee pad, the shoulders, things that really need to draw your eye. And very, very gradually build this up using the airbrush. As you can see, really makes the model pop. And to create a little bit of depth in the armor, I did a roughly 50-50 mix of burnt umber and some yellow ink, and just gently sprayed this over the shadow areas. This livens it up a little bit and just makes it look a little bit less washed out, because we do want to keep some of the liveliness in the armor. And for the final highlight, we're just going to use some pale sand. I more or less focused this over all the areas that I wanted to really punch that white highlight on. And coming back with some Steel Legion Drab, I did notice that the highlights were a little bit too sharp, so just using that I carefully went over and took them down, so the model was more mid-tones than highlights. We're going to be working on the gold next, and I'm not going to go into detail how I did this, but basically the way that you want to do it is you want to start with a nice dark brown, a medium brown, say like Mornfang brown, and then work up into a yellow, whatever one your choice is. I ended up going with Avalanche Sunset, as you'll see in the next shot, and then with some pale sand and white scar. You don't have to use these exact paints, and I was actually just trying to follow a tutorial I found online as a bit of a reference. More or less what you want to do is you want to start off with your darkest base coat. And non-metallic metal can seem really daunting, but basically what you're doing is you're just going to put highlights wherever it would be pointing to the sky or the shiniest. As you see, I just went around the model and base coated with that chocolate, and then coming in with that Mornfang brown, I did water it down quite a lot and focused it towards the key areas where the light was shining. You can more or less just turn the model from top down and look there, and then just highlight up from that. Now, I didn't go into depth with it, but you can see that I've slowly built that yellow, the brown, and everything up, and just done a little bit of edge highlighting as I go. You'd be very surprised how much an edge highlight can do for your non-metallic metal. Now for the final highlights, we're just going to come in with some pale sand and really go nice and bright here. Don't be too afraid if you mess this up. You can just come in later with a different color and pull it down again. Again, just working those edge highlights up to really sell the metallicness of this. Now, I ended up using white scar for this, but I do not recommend it. I would use literally any other white paint. I'm starting to get to the end of the bottle, and I can happily say that I'm able to throw it out now. And with that, the gold was all done. I did kind of come back later and rework a little bit, but it really wasn't worth filming. The ultimate goal is to build from your darkest point to your brightest point, in not steep but smooth gradients up, and you can either do this with glazing or gently layering up using a sort of waterish paint. Depends on the kind of effect that you want to go for and how metallic you want your gold to be. Now I quickly moved on to the purity seals, and basically every time I want to paint one of these guys, I start out with a Mornfang brown over usually like a darkish brown. And initially when I was doing this, I actually started mixing pale sand into the highlight color, but it really did not give me the color that I wanted. It took a lot of the warmth out of the brown and made it more like this sickly kind of highlighted skin tone. So as you can see, it's not super flash. So I ended up just coming back with Steel Legion Drab, and although the highlights looked a little bit funky, I basically just went over everything that we did before. You can also use a color like Xandri Dust to achieve a similar effect, but I just love the way that Steel Legion Drab looks on purity seals. As you can see here, I made sure to go down the sides of these, because for some reason I always neglect the sides of purity seals and it just looks very weird. And just like with most of my highlights, I mixed a little bit of pale sand to bring it up to that nice bright white, sort of vibrant color. And a little bit of an edge highlight just to really make it pop. Oh, just clean that bad boy out. And ta-da, they are all done. Now for all the wax parts, it was pretty easy. I started off with corn red and some Mephiston red. And basically with this, I actually kept a lot of the brown in the shadows and the recesses to kind of give it a warm feel. And then coming in with that Mephiston red, I did actually go a little bit too heavy on this and kind of flooded the seal, but just highlighting it up nice and gently. For his book here, I just started out with a little bit of a Mornfang brown glaze and gently put that over most of the areas. As you can see here, going very light with this, and it's almost like an overbrush and kind of dry brush at the same time. Now using a bit of that German brown, I just carefully put it in the recesses, and then using a wet brush, I slowly blended it back into that Mornfang brown, creating a nice little smooth transition. And then as always, mixing a bit of pale sand in, I dabbed on some highlights. This adds a bit of weathering to the book and makes it look like it's a bit more used. Now, to try and finish the armor off, I just came in with that pale sand and a little bit of white scar mixed together, and ever so carefully highlighted up everything. Now, I'm no expert when it comes to edge highlights, as you can see here. I basically did all the ones that I thought would be very prominent and that would make the model stick out. But I definitely have a long way to come when it comes to edge highlighting. Now using a bit of Black Legion, I just went around and did all the soft parts in his armor and anything else that needed to be black. I started off with his axe because we're going to be doing more non-metallic metal on this bad boy. So I figured starting from a black base coat would just give us a nice start and a bit more range when it came to creating depth. For his face, I just used a bit of Bugman's Glow and carefully highlighted up. And as the highlights went up, I used a little bit of pale sand to gently do those bad boys. And I didn't want to overcomplicate this. I'm not great at faces, so I try to get them done in the easiest and fastest way possible. And just ever so carefully dabbing a little bit of pale sand on key areas like the top of the nose, the top of the cheekbones, and just anywhere else that needs to be emphasized. For his green cables, I used Merm Green and Goblin Green, starting off with that Merm Green coming in and just base coating everything. Don't overcomplicate this. This is not an important part of the model. You just want to make sure that you can get it done nice and quickly, and it just breaks it up nicely. Now coming up with that Goblin Green, I think the paint was still a little bit wet at this point, so I carefully blended it in. Nothing too crazy, it's pretty easy to do, and just makes the model pop a little bit. Now, for our colors, we're going to be using Avalanche Sunset for the cables. This is going to check the box for the yellow that we needed to use for this model. We've already used the tan bone color, so now that one we can tick off as well. For his Purity Seal, I just did a mix of pale sand and black to create a nice little gray. I didn't end up doing anything else with this really, just doing a couple of highlights later down the track. To get his pipes popping, I came in with some Uriel yellow and very carefully edge highlighted up these pipes. Just made them pop a little bit more. And I wasn't super happy with how the yellow looked, so I decided to come in with some Troll Slayer orange and gently glaze it into the recesses, mostly just at the start and the back. Gives a little bit of depth and makes it stand out a bit more. Now when it comes to doing the non-metallic metal, these are the paints that I used. I'm going to be honest, the scale of 75 colors were absolutely terrible. For some reason, whenever I tried to put them on, they were super gloopy, super jelly. I mixed them in my Vortex mixer for ages and they just would not do their job. As you can see here, I did actually have a bit of trouble creating a relatively smooth transition. I ended up substituting Dawnstone in amongst a couple of these colors just to bring back that nice gray, but it was an absolute nightmare trying to paint these with them. More or less with this, you just want to create nice, smooth highlights, and basically all I did was search non-metallic metal online and just copied something that I saw there. But as you can see here, I'm just going to quickly run you through how to do it on the hilt. You start off with your darkest blue and then sort of highlight the upper areas, come in with your next one, and then your gray. And then from there, we come in with the white to do the final highlight. Non-metallic metal is pretty hard to do, but if you simplify by either using a reference or just looking at IRL examples, it can make it much simpler and allow you to wrap your head around it. Now we're going to be moving on to the glowing effects, so just grabbing some white ink and some airbrush medium, I very carefully went over the model. Now I will admit that I had a lot of troubles with speckling on this. I don't know whether or not it's because my airbrush needle is really damaged right now, but it came out a little bit rougher than I wanted to, and I had a hard time getting the paint exactly where I wanted it. Now this might just be a caveat to the pressure being wrong, or me not getting the paint enough, or not cleaning my airbrush. There's a lot of different factors that can bring this in. As you can see here, I more or less just focused this highlight on the tops and the bottoms of the areas where I really wanted that glow to shine. Now just using some fluorescent ink, I went over the key areas, more or less everything that we did before. And unfortunately there was quite a lot of overspray on this. Like I said before, I think the needle on my airbrush or something is bent, because wherever I pointed it, it more or less shot above that by about half a centimeter. Which is really frustrating, but overall I think I managed to reel it in pretty well. We're going to be using some oil paints to pin wash all the runes on this model and really make them pop. So I gave it a very, very heavy coat, initially starting with a nice light coat and then just going very heavy from the top, allowing that to dry and then coming in with the second coat. I went to my local art shop and picked up this Norma titanium white. You can basically use any white paint that you want, that's the oil base for this. So I decided to use this one, and as you can see, it just flows straight into those runes. That gloss varnish breaks the surface tension on the model and just makes it super easy to throw paint down on it. And it also makes sure that we're not going to damage any of our coats underneath. Majority of the time you won't need to varnish a model to use oil washes or oil paints in general. But if you're like me and you airbrush a lot, it is more or less necessary to do it because you don't want to be stripping all those thin layers. Like you see here, just putting this onto the shoulder pad was so satisfying. Seeing it run all through the nooks and crannies was fantastic. Now I did end up coming in with a clean brush and just a little bit of white spirit and making sure that I could mop up all the excess. The best thing about oils is they are reductive, meaning that you can come back later and if you don't like the way that it looks. Basically, if you don't like how it looks, you can come in with either a paintbrush like I am here or a sponge and mop up any of the excess. Now that the model was almost done, I just came in with some AK Interactive Ultra Matte Varnish and gave it a heavy coat over everything. Unfortunately, when I was bringing the model back in, I managed to crack the axe off and I was devastated. But luckily enough, I have the skills to fix everything. I do want to give a quick shout out to Slim Brady 4141 because in the last video they reminded me that I need to drill the barrels on the Invicta Tactical Wolf Suit. While I was trying to repin this axe, I did also go ahead and drill the barrels on this gun. Starting off with my hobby knife, I just did a little bit of a pilot hole to make sure that everything would line up nicely. And then coming in with my handy little hobby drill, ever so gently drilled that bad boy out. Now I didn't actually have my small bit anymore, which is a bit of a shame, but this did the job. A little bit of plastic glue in there, and I did end up using a bit of super glue on the other piece just to get it set instantly. And using a little bit of piece of plastic rod would set in there really, really nicely. I just went ahead and retouched the axe head, and voila, good as new and stronger than ever. Now with that, I just went ahead and based the model, did the rim, and that left me with this. Overall, I am just incredibly happy with how this model turned out, and I'm really impressed with the challenge that Z gave me to paint this up. I think we've nailed the bone color, the orange, and the yellow. The yellow's not as prominent as I wanted it to be, but it's definitely on there, and overall was a super fun challenge. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video, and I'm super excited to do another one in the near future, hopefully. So if you liked it, make sure to leave a comment down below, and let me know what you thought of the model and just everything in general. And if you guys do want to see me go more in depth with any of these techniques, feel free to let me know. I'd be more than happy to make some sort of mini videos throughout the week in amongst everything else to really give you a deep dive. Now lastly, I feel like I'm saying this in every single video, but I've been absolutely blown away with the support. As of right now, we are at nearly 570 subscribers and creeping up every single day. And from the bottom of my heart, I just want to say thank you. This is really a dream come true, and I can't wait to make even bigger and better content, and I really want to push myself to paint better for every single person here. So thank you all. Now don't forget to leave a like on this video if you did indeed enjoy it, and if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. I'm so happy to see so many friendly new faces joining the community every single day, and I hope to see yours there as well. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for watching, and until next time, happy hobbying. Bye.